everybody. This is Geoff Welch with This Tiny Empire, and I am very pleased today to be here with Scott Erickson, who I always want to call you Scott the Painter.
I know.
Because that's your handle on so many things.
It's my name now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Scott Ericksons in the world, so I had to choose something else. And then now it's all my social media, so it's pretty much my name.
Yeah. That's what it
People
feels
who know
like,
me mostly through that are like, oh, you're Scott the Painter. What's up? Yeah.
So I think that I first came into awareness of your work when you did the artwork for Derek Webb's Feedback album.
Yeah.
I think that's where I first probably became aware of your work. And just I've sort of followed you quietly from afar for quite a while. And it wasn't until this fabulous Love Thy Haters t-shirt showed up on your one of your feeds somewhere that I had to have it. That I thought, hey, maybe it would be cool to talk to him about this idea of creating art and sort of opening yourself up to being criticized and but that being worth it because of what you have to create. So, but real quick, why don't you give people just like a little quick background about you beyond the fact that you did the artwork for Derek Webb's Feedback album?
Where to start? I was a high school teacher in my 20s. That's what I studied, to do that and art. And when I was about 27, I literally had dreams and visions about painting in front of people and was like, I should do that, and kind of realized like what I wanted to spend my time doing. Or I realized I would always regret it if I didn't give it a try, like being a full-time artist. And I felt like the universe that I lived in was calling me into that. So I changed my life to that, and it's been a ride ever since, right now I am currently unemployed by a company, but I'm in, I do my own stuff and feel like maybe this next season is part of that again. So mostly I was just just doing artwork on my own, and then I've worked with a number of churches and organizations, and I just recently was at a creative agency, and then just didn't work out in what they wanted to create. It just never panned out. So we had to move on from that. So
and one of your sort of, I don't know, claim to fame is the right word, but so I mean, you're a live painter in many cases. You go and where other people are performing, and
compared to a dead painter. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But where you paint in front of audiences real time while perhaps other things are going on the stage, you're doing sort of interpretive work.
Yeah. Like it adds a whole other layer to, I think, what's going on. So I'm there to be like a visual. I don't even know what the word, visual translator. It's not always like I'm trying to like visualize what we're talking about. Sometimes it's an interpretation. Sometimes it's a companion. Sometimes when it's with music, it's just like, what are these songs evoking me, and how would I partner with that? I have rock and roll in me, and as a visual artist, I don't really know what to do with that. So I'm a performer, and so it's just interesting. I'm a performer who's a visual artist, but I actually am going into a new season where I'm writing like a one-man play to do like storytelling, where live creation, video, and narration all kind of interchange and take the main stage at different times. And so I'm doing that next month. Anyways,
cool. That's awesome.
So that's kind of but I spend my time being a creative person.
Yeah. So, and I think that you're a great person to talk to about this, because you are somebody who is, by profession, an artist. I mean, you make your way in life as a creator. And so I think you have an insight to share with the rest of us who maybe wouldn't call ourselves artists, but maybe are artists in sort of the Seth Godin sense of the word. But where it's important for us to express something, we have something that we want to bring to life in the world, but we don't paint or play songs, that kind of stuff that we would think of as art. And so I want to sort of touch on some of those and find some overlap there, because again, this idea of love thy haters is not exactly culturally appropriate. I mean, like, we don't think of that as like, oh yeah, that's what we all do. Of course,
Yeah.
when people don't like what we do, we just gravitate towards saying, "Let me give you a hug. I love you."
Yeah.
So tell me about being a creator, and you're sort of putting your heart and your soul onto the canvas or onto film or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're going to be met with criticism and pushback and people who don't like it or get it or whatever. What's that like?
I think I first really experienced this. So I did this project when I was working at a church as their artist. I did this Lent Stations of the Cross tattoo project called Cruciformity, where I took the Stations of the Cross, which is a Lenten kind of visual meditation through the journey of Jesus to the cross, and I reinterpreted it through tattoo art. And then the show was actually, there was art on the walls, but it was art on people. So the people became the stations. And it got a lot of press. It got on CNN, all this kind of stuff. For the first time, I got like real, I don't know if hate mail, but like mail from people. It's funny, like on CNN, like if you look in the comments, there's like over 1,000, and it's like either people who aren't of any kind of faith or like stupid religious people, and then people who are like, I guess, of the Christian kind of faith are like, you're a heretic, this is against the Bible. And so I found myself in this like middle spot, and I didn't care. And I realized I didn't care because, well, for one, because I had personal connection with people who loved it. And the people who got the tattoos like expressed their deep gratitude for the chance to be a part of it. So is that. But I realized also that I had worked that stuff over and over and over and got it to this, because I was like, this is going to go on people's bodies for the rest of their life.
Yeah, no backsies there,
like,
right?
You need to not have any doubts about the images. Like, you need to work it until you're like, I am 100% behind this. And this is actually like been playing out a lot in my life, and I was writing about it this morning, where I was like, I'm not sure if I'm becoming a better artist or a worse artist, because everything I do like takes 8 times for me to get it right. And I think it's because I'm being a better artist, and I realized that I think when I was younger and creating, I just thought like, well, I made this stuff and, well, I'm learning, so this is as good as it can be, and I put it out there. And now I realize that creating things is less about you just have this magical gift and everything that comes out of you is brilliant right off the bat. And it's more of like, you have a really good idea, and the craft and the skill of an artist is to put these pieces together and work on it until it's actually really great. You know, like writing, everything I write at first is, you know, kind of crappy. And then after re-edit, moving things around, thinking metaphors and analogies and stories and stuff, I can craft something pretty good. And the same thing is like visual art too. In fact, I have this like Bill Murray painting I did up here.
Yeah.
That I made kind of for myself. I painted his face like 5 times. And it was so frustrating, but I was like, oh, it's not quite right. And I would like sand the whole thing out and redo it. And you know, eventually I got to a spot where I was like, okay, I like this. I think, too, I got to a spot where I was like, I need to move on. But, yeah, so I've found that if you're not 100% on what you're making, then people's comments can be devastating. But if you're 100% on what you do and you've critiqued yourself, then you don't care. And I don't think you should look and see what people are saying anyways. But I think if you're solid on it, your biggest fight is always going to be against yourself. So if you are pleased with your work, then who cares? Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah, well, and I think that's brilliant, because that definitely is something I've discovered for myself, because I can certainly gravitate towards sort of needing the stroke a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, it feels good to have somebody say, oh yeah, I totally like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But at some point, I think you realize that no matter what you do, you're going to piss somebody off. I mean, like, there's no like magic formula where it's like everyone in the world is like, yes, that's the thing, you know?
Yeah, and oh my gosh, the internet is this weird like place of, anonymousness. Like, on like the CNN blog, you could have like the greatest story in the world, like somebody giving their life to like helping everybody and who's suffering, and somebody would be like, you're a douchebag. It's there. There's no rhyme or reason. You can't give it too much weight in your life.
Yeah. There's sort of this natural human reaction when someone is critical of us that doesn't feel great, I mean, is your solution just to not read the comments, is to just avoid those kind of things and not have to deal with it, or have you reached a higher plane?
Well, yeah, I'm going to get deep on you.
All right.
Let me tell you where that shirt came from.
Yes.
So I would be a person who would say that I am following the teachings of Jesus, and that is kind of the basis of what I filter my life through. Mm-hmm. Three things. One, a friend of mine has written a book where he's like, all of us have this evil root inside of us. Mm-hmm. So you have, like, in the Old Testament, you have the 10 Commandments, and one of them is like, you shouldn't murder people. And then you have Jesus coming along hundreds of years later, and he's like, yeah, but, if you hate your brother, it's the same thing as, like, murdering. And what he's saying is, like, it's not, don't murder means, like, well, I didn't do that, so I can judge you. It's action-based. But, Jesus is coming along and saying, actually, there's something in all of us that's broken, and it's something that we respond from. So I'm going to give you three stories. So that idea is like, okay, I have this evil root in me that is drawing me, I guess, would be into darkness instead of me wanting to evolve into the light. Second story, I was on this airplane, and we had this layover in Salt Lake City. Didn't even have to get off the plane. Some people got off and then got back on. We're flying to Denver, so it's like a little hour hop. So this lightning storm came in off the mountain, so we're literally on the runway, and like lightning is happening outside. And the pilot gets on, and he's like, so we have a bit of a weather system that just came in, and we're going to have to just sit here for like 20 minutes. And when it passes, then we'll take off. There'll be a little turbulence, but we'll get to Denver. So we're just going to be like 20 minutes late. And I'm like on the aisle. There's a woman here, and then there's another woman on the window. And the woman on the window says something to her friend, says like, oh, so what he's saying is he does his job. And I've traveled a lot, and people are idiots. I'm traveling, and what I wanted to say is like, no, I just want to be like, excuse me, what he just said was, we are in a flying lightning rod, and if we go up in the clouds right now, we're all going to. So I'm going to save your life by just sitting here for 20 minutes, and you're going to live this like mediocre existence because for the rest of your life, and I'm going to save that because I'm going to wait 20 minutes. Yeah. Thank you very much. But so, like, that's what's going on in me. And then this idea of the evil root popped up in my head. And I was like, what I right now is I want to dismiss her. Mm-hmm. I want to dismiss her because I think she's an idiot. And mostly because she's an idiot. And I just thought, what would it look like to embrace her? And so I sat and I kind of looked at her like stalkingly, but I just kind of looked at her and I realized, what if she'd never flies and she's really scared and she just like said that because she just got to say something to calm herself. Yeah, maybe she might be a little like not higher functioning as I kind of watched her interaction with her friend. And so as I took the time to like try to see her, mm-hmm. I could feel this thing in me move from I want to dismiss her to I want to engage her. Mm-hmm. And I have another story where this woman who I met long ago at this conference, this retreat we were at, we had some awkward interactions. I was really excited about this job where I got to work at this church as a painter, and I didn't know anybody else doing that, and I was really excited about what I was going to do. And I don't know if she was just older and cynical and jealous, but this last some really personal hardship, and I wrote about it on my blog, and I got a Facebook message from her, and her line started was like, when I met you, you were just really arrogant and full of yourself, and then goes on to like, she wrote this huge message that was basically saying like, let me tell you all the reasons, what I've learned, and let me give you all this advice about, how to be an artist. And I just wanted to be like, did you write the handbook on how to be an asshole? Because apparently you did, because this is the way to start.
This is it.
And I just knew that I didn't want to respond in that spot. I sat on it for 2 days. Like, it took me 2 days before, and I realized, like, I try to think of how I respond, and honestly, like, I think all I wrote was like, thanks for taking the time to just write me. I really appreciate hearing your story. And that he wrote me back and was like, I love you so much, believe in you. All this it was so weird. But I realized in that moment too, like, I was like, there's that thing again that wants me to dismiss her and be like, you're a real jerk. You like, what? I don't understand what you're saying to me. Are you trying to comfort me? Like, backhanded, like, not doing well. And so I had this movement where I'm going from dismissing to engagement. Third story is Jesus says he says the law and the prophets, so the entire Old Testament, can be summed up in these things: love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And I think we skip that second one a lot in the faith tradition I grew up in. And basically he's saying, like, everything in life, everything about what I'm teaching is summed up in loving people as yourself. And so here's my conclusion. I think that love is asking me to disarm myself. I think love is asking me to disarm my life of dismissal and be a vessel for engagement and embracing. And so I think the haters thing came from, a lot of just haters online and stuff like that. Instead of like love my neighbors, it should be love my haters. The people who are easily the dismissive ones. Like, what would it look like to engage them? And I hear this a lot from, like, I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts and comedians who are, people hate them, and then they like meet them, and then they're like, we hang out for 5 minutes and they love me, So like, hatred comes from not seeing and not knowing one another. And so for me, there's this personal transformation where I'm like, I just want to disarm myself from hatred, and I want to try to embrace, even though it's really difficult. And so I'm hoping that is in this next kind of stage where I have some really badass stuff coming down the line. One project that my friend is like, oh, this is primed for controversy, and if you're not ready ahead of time, you're going to get demolished by the media. And so, like, I'm working on making sure I have answers to all the questions that are going to come up. Yeah. But I also am just like, I don't, how are you not defensive and moving towards this, like, isolated, don't hurt me? Because there's a weird thing about becoming a public person, is that when you stand in front of people or you're seen in front of people, you can't hide yourself anymore. And so there's this, I think the fear of, like, public speaking, or the fear of putting stuff out there, is the fear of really being seen. And so some of the work of that is just kind of really starting to know yourself, and knowing that people are going to see you, what you're showing them, not in a false way, because if you have anything false, it'll get found out, but, like, what are the true things about yourself? So we're getting into, like, philosophy and all this kind of stuff.
Well, I think that's so appropriate, because whether we are artists or whether we are just people who are trying to make a difference in the world around us by, injecting some good out there, it's sort of that personal component, when you can't hide behind something else, when you're saying, here's a part of me that I want to share with you. Yeah. That's dangerous. That's super scary, and I think that I love that you spoke about seeing the person, because whenever we're attacked, that's the easiest thing to do, is just, like, make them nothing.
Yeah, totally.
I don't want to see you as a person.
And in business, and, it ties into everything. You're always going to meet conflict, and I mean, you're probably not going to like some of the people you disagree with. But yeah, how do you go step beyond it and be like, am I really seeing you? I think that's the other thing too, is like, is the issue really them, or is the issue kind of me? Like, is the issue that they're just really an asshole, or is the issue that I just don't have enough patience to love an asshole?
Right.
And I've reached the end of love, and that's in myself, and that's frustrating. And so I naturally want to put it on them. Well, they're so difficult that's why I can't do this. It's because they're difficult, when actually it's like, maybe I just have a smaller capacity than I thought. And what would it look like to grow in that? And then it's more of like, oh, this is something I have to grow in, you know? And kids and marriage and these things have slowly taught me that. But yeah, I think that's just it's just not a road that we get told that that's the way we need to go down. But I think it's a true road that all of us are invited to. So,
all right, one last little bit here.
Yep.
Just a quick, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who is sitting here right now watching this saying, there's something I want to do or say, but I'm a little bit afraid. I'm afraid of what might come back. Any words of wisdom?
Turn it on yourself first.
Okay.
If you're going to say something to an audience, like, work it on yourself first. Always set yourself on fire first before you set the world on fire, right?
Okay.
And then then you don't look like a hypocrite. I have it in my journal. There's a guy named Viktor Frankl, German philosopher, wrote a great book, Man's Search for Meaning. He says, one who desires to give light, he who desires to give light must endure burning. Here we go.
Oh, nice.
So he who desires to give light must endure burning. And I think, if we want to bring something good and insightful into the world, like, that work has to be done on us first. So, I don't think that you necessarily need to dismiss that word that wants to come out. It's the thing you want to bring through. I just think you need to work it on yourself.
Cool.
And also, in my next stage of creating, everything's collaborative. So bring other people into it and get their eyes on it and work in some kind of team or some group effort with other people. There you go.
I love it. Thank you so much, Scott. So if people want to find out more about you, they want to buy your stuff, wherefore shall they go?
Just my website, ScottEricksonArt.com. And then I'm Scott the Painter on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr. So you can find me there. All the places.
All right, good. Well, thank you so much. I totally appreciate you taking a few minutes to chat with me. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it, Geoff. All right, man.
Take care.
Bye.